Hello, and welcome all to KTern.AI's Digital Roadshow 2022, the first ever roadshow for SAP Intelligent Enterprise Operations. As we approach to the last day of this roadshow, I would like to thank all the speakers and participants who have been part of this event. So let's get started with today's event of YouTube Premiere on embracing technology and innovation for the enterprise transformations. Introducing our elite panel of speakers for the premiere today, Mr. Philip Swick, the Global Head of Technology and Innovation at 10th Pin, and Vignesh Barni, Head of Product Growth at KTern.AI. So to get things started for today, let me introduce our partner for the YouTube premiere, 10th Pin. 10th Pin aims to provide digital impact and transformational change by combining the industry, process, and information technology expertise. 10th Pin's organizational change management is PROCE certified, the most widely attended certification in the world. Their remarkable work in the organizational change management makes them believe that OCM is not necessary to implement your ERP, but it is necessary to drive value from your new best practice business processes. Driving towards this exact vision, 10th Pin aims to deliver an engaging change experience to drive the success of the digital transformation program. Now I would like to welcome one of SAP's global thought leader, Mr. Philip Swick, the Global Head of Technology and Innovation at 10th Pin. In his role, he is guiding clients through disrupting technologies changes for SAP and beyond. Further, he has been with partners like SAP and innovating new solutions on the life science industry cloud. His experience of over 20 years in SAP makes him a widely knowledgeable person in any kind of technology. Philip, it's an absolute privilege to be teaming up with you and the global partner like 10th Pin for this event. Thank you, Philip. Over to you.
Welcome. My name is Philip Swick, and I am the Global Head of Technology and Innovation at 10th Pin, and based in the USA. We are a global management consulting company focusing on the life science industry. I want to thank KTern for organizing this excellent Digital Roadshow 2022 and inviting me to host a session. Since many years, we are a partner of KTern, and they are an important pillar of our S/4HANA implementation delivery. With that said, I'm excited about today's session, so let's start. My session is about the major shift in the enterprise cloud, which is currently happening, and what is the impact in the SAP ecosystem. The agenda, first I want to talk about the cloud, how it's actually shifting from disrupting technology to disrupting business. And from there, what are the impacts on enterprises? And one of the key aspects is the industry cloud. So we are comparing what's today's cloud versus the industry cloud. And then last, what are SAP industry cloud offering and innovation around the industry cloud. The cloud is shifting from disrupting technology as we know it to disrupting business. And I want to talk about a little bit about the history, how it actually happened and what is the future looking like. So if you look at the disrupting technology in the early 2000s, we know that infrastructure as a service came around, AWS started. And it was really disrupting because now from bare metal, we basically could spin up infrastructure with a click of the button. And it was really disrupting technology and scalability of businesses, specifically if it was seasonal, but also about like scalability and future resistance of the companies. Then came the platform as a service. So offerings with tool sets, with different environments where we could develop, usually also the hyperscalers, which have done in the past infrastructure as a service, offered now also platform as a service with tools which actually help building software. And then came the software as a service. So basically that we could run software in the cloud and have them as a service. As many as we know it today, it became part of our life. And the trend continued with analytics and AI specifically with machine learning. And it really disrupted already the business, because now we had at the fingertip power which we usually didn't have, or which was expensive. We could run machine learning queries which usually used big machines, and we couldn't use them before, and we could use it at a fingertip. And it really disrupted how we could use it also for the business. Then came distributed cloud, which supported that we, in a global setting, can run cloud infrastructure, that we can work remote. And it became predominant when the pandemic hit, that this is where the future is, and how actually businesses could continue working with this distributed technology. Even if we consider Zoom or Teams or others, then it's very important. The next one is service clouds. So in the past, we have seen a lot of AMS providers, and the future is actually a combination between service and cloud, and have that actually combined and have a low impact on technology. So even less and much smaller IT department. And the next part is industry cloud. So we have not looked in the past so much at about how can we actually help specific industries, but we looked at how we can help technology drive the whole disruption. And with industry clouds, we look at all the different players and then look at how we can disrupt the business. And there's a new feature which is coming, and we see that quite often because Tenspin is mostly working with life science in the life science industry, which is sovereign clouds. So clouds which are specifically targeting data privacy, independent, governed clouds which are compliant with different state and country or region requirements and regulations. For example, also for patient data. And then the future we see in the sustainable clouds. So a lot of companies and a lot of our clients, they put sustainable growth and sustainable targets in their roadmap for the future to come. And cloud can actually help that, because it's part of the shared economy, which can target specific sustainable growth, like, for example, having only specific electricity used, building data centers where we have regenerative energies, etc. And that will become even much more of a target than it is nowadays. So what does it mean for SAP, and where do we see the trends? So infrastructure as a service, before SAP, already in the 90s, SAP was hosted at different data centers, and they were managing the SAP systems for some clients, but it actually really disrupted how some companies can use and spin up SAP systems and others for infrastructure as a service. But then SAP started offering the SAP Google Cloud Platform, which is nowadays called SAP BTP, Business Technology Platform, which is their platform as a service offering. And it works on different hyperscalers. Additionally, they started offering S/4HANA in the cloud, which is a public offering, which is kind of like software as a service. You could also consider the S/4HANA cloud as a private edition as software as a service, but it's much more in the section service cloud. And that's why SAP started also RISE with SAP. It's a service cloud offering where we have packaged everything in an environment where SAP takes care of a lot of parts, which usually IT departments had to deal with. And SAP had also the analytics cloud and other offerings in the analytics space, which comes very natural for SAP. But now they started offering also, and that they announced with the rise with SAP, the industry cloud. So they have different industry clouds which target specific industry solutions. So in the past, for example, for ERP, we have seen industry solution, retail, etc., which utilities, which were an industry solution inside of the ERP system. But now with the industry cloud, we have a complete environment which is targeted for a specific industry. And that's how we have to see it. So what are the impacts on enterprises with all these trends which we see in the cloud environment? So first of all, cloud strategy. Nowadays, every company has to have an answer for cloud strategy because remote work becomes very predominant. We have to set the right priorities. We have to be flexible. What if, like, we have a major interrupting event like the pandemic again? We have to see how can we actually grow when there's fast growth again, but also answer the questions which were in the past not so important, which is, for example, data privacy. We see that as one of the key drivers nowadays. Selection process is also changed. In the past, we were thinking about the different hyperscalers, but now we have to combine it with, like, what is the industry cloud? What are the partners which we are working with? That are changes which are really important. And it also changes the stakeholder management. Which stakeholders do we have now in the group which are driving the cloud questions for the company? Maybe the business will be now part of the stakeholders or main stakeholders to drive which hyperscaler to use, which industry clouds they want, etc. People that will drive the future for the stakeholders. And then, of course, opportunity. So the changes which are happening in the cloud drive definitely opportunity. It drives business scalability. It drives distributed work, which many more employees are requesting. And it drives also sustainability. How do we act responsible with our work as we know it? And how can we meet the sustainable targets which we actually set ourselves as a company? The next topic I want to talk about is today's cloud versus industry cloud. I call it the charm factor. It's super charming. And why is it charming? It's the combination which the industry cloud offers. It is not only like a software as a service with like different software offerings. No, it's a combination of infrastructure as a service, which is specific maybe to the industry, platform as a service, which might be specific, and software as a service. And each addresses a vertical requirement. Hyperscaler independence. In the past, we had to select specific hyperscalers to answer to certain tasks, but now with industry clouds, which are targeted, we become much more independent. We have a choice. We can adjust to our cloud strategies. Adaptability. How the industry clouds are working, they offer more adaptabilities to the current software as a service applications. And they offer specific business functionalities which are not met by infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And then readiness, because nowadays the industry is changing so fast. How are we ready? And with standardization of certain functionality and meeting enterprise compliance and country compliance, etc., customers can be much more, and clients can be much more ready and faster ready with utilizing the industry cloud. And the last one is the marketplace. I would say industry clouds are a step forward for a whole product rather than like a patchwork of different solutions. But they are offered in a marketplace function, so I can still select the functionalities which I want, but the idea is in an industry cloud that every function actually works together and adapts certain standards. And these standards, they are very key to actually the industry cloud. And that's why I call it the charm factor. So what's the SAP Industry Cloud offering, and what does it have to do with innovation? Why am I involved, for example, every day? So let's look at the SAP Industry Cloud. One of the key factors is the business network. In this Big Mac picture, which SAP likes to use, the business network basically combines that across all the different functions of an industry, I can use the technology, I can work together, I can be collaborative. I have the power to actually adapt new functionalities faster. And the industry cloud will support this across different sections. And as a base for that, SAP sees that they have the intelligence suite, so that's the intelligence suite run, for example, S/4HANA at specific clients, but also industry cloud with certain partner solutions, so offering partners to place a part and an application, an offering in this industry cloud. We, for example, as Tenspin, have a couple of offerings in the industry cloud ourselves, but also SAP is planning to create many more specific functions. And we are currently involved in 3 different co-innovations together with SAP and large life science clients to build the next generation industry cloud for life science. And this combination basically creates that we have across the whole network functionality which everybody can use, but they are not a competitive advantage anymore. They are basically creating scalability and faster response for the whole industry. And underlying from that is the business technology platform. So we have also a couple of solutions which are run on the business technology platform. And of course, the infrastructure. And important is here that you can be a hyperscaler independent. So you can choose AWS, Azure, and GCP. And there are different industries where SAP offers the industry cloud, automotive, life science, retail, utilities, but many others. There's a specific website from SAP where they drive the different industry solutions and show what are the different offerings and what they are planning in the future. And I think it's very important to see and utilize these functionalities. So how do we drive this with SAP together? We as Tenspin, we have an innovation center. So we see ourselves as an advisor, a catalyst for innovation and an enabler. And this innovation center, we work with partners. So for example, here I highlighted KTern as one of our key partners. And because they are also hosting today this digital roadshow, but we are working also heavily together with SAP. As mentioned, we are running different co-innovations. We are trying to utilize the SAP platform and technology and realize these co-innovations to build basically the best co-innovations, which are not only technology focused, but also have our industry expertise and the client's industry expertise to run these co-innovations. And these clients are our industry partners. So for example, for one co-innovation, which is called Intelligent Clinical Supply Management Platform, we have over 20 industry partners which are part of a consortium. And also in the other co-innovations, there are large consortiums which drive how we can actually utilize these innovations best and how everybody brings in their experience and also their requirements to build the right solutions for the industry. And I think this is really changing how we see cloud and how we see software offering and how we see that we don't need any more specific software run at one client, but rather as a large solution, which is running in the cloud and is managed and is accessible to everyone. And with that said, this is what I wanted to cover today. I hope it was interesting for you. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate. Send me an email to philip.zweig@tenspin.com. And thank you again, KTern, for hosting this digital roadshow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. It's been wonderful to hear regarding the embracing of technology and how innovations happen in the enterprise world. Now, I would like to invite our second speaker of the day, Vignesh Barni, Head of Product Growth, KTern.AI. In his role as a Head of Product Growth, Vignesh drives the growth operations and corporate development at KTern.AI. His thought leadership on the SAP-led digital transformation as a service has a global influence with avid followers in the SAP ecosystem. Process and discipline build an inspiring personality in him. Vignesh believes that people and technology are his biggest driving force for being out there to contribute to the SaaS world. Here is Vignesh sharing his thoughts on how hyper-automation in KTern can enrich enterprise productivity and sharing the right example for technology and innovation coming together to simplify the SAP world.
Everyone. This is Vignesh, Head of Product Growth at KTern.AI. Now, Philip has given his wonderful insights on how digital transformation is taking the world by storm and how people are moving towards change management, and it is important for enterprises to stay agile in this post-pandemic era. I thought I'll probably have to show about how you can, as an enterprise, try and manage your entire landscape and keep it agile with KTern as a digital transformation platform. Let me get started by sharing my screen. And I have to go into the presentation mode. Now, as KTern, a bit of introduction about what KTern actually is. So KTern is a DXS platform built for SAP landscapes, and we are an SAP validated and a Spotlight partner listed as part of SAP Store. So this would mean that we are a SAP-specific digital transformation platform that focuses on transformations which are SAP-led. And we as a platform are built based on a tribal knowledge that has been accumulated for over 20 years. And it is a no-code, non-invasive platform that can connect to your ERP landscape. That means you don't have to install any of the probes or plugins to get this automation going. And most of all, the entire platform has its vision to democratize the digital transformations that happens across the world. That would mean you can involve your customers, your business users, your IT, the system integrators, your vendors into this particular platform where you can enjoy the benefits and the capabilities and the automation the platform provides for each of their different roles. So a bit of technical deep dive into the platform. The platform has got 5 major streams: digital maps, digital projects, digital process, digital labs, and digital minds, which sits on a cognitive digital workspace. I say cognitive because this platform continuously reads into the SAP system and it tries to understand what exactly is going on during the project, before the project, and even after the project. Now, in this particular session, I'll be focusing more on digital minds, where you can utilize the capabilities of the platform to orchestrate change intelligence and release intelligence and have your landscape digitally transformed, where I talk about the challenges which the ERP customers are facing right now to keep up with the changing demands and the changing market conditions that is happening across the globe. Now, the platform is also very natively integrated to most of the SAP products. That would mean you can have a singular platform to control and orchestrate your entire IT landscape. And we also integrate with most of the popular partner products. One such example is UiPath Test Manager, where we made sure the integration between UiPath and KTern platform reaps so much benefits for CIOs, release managers, change managers, and test managers. Now, if I have to talk a bit about the problem which I'm going to talk about, it's pretty obvious that the ERP landscapes are trying to optimize themselves and they are trying to stay in the race and stay ahead of the competition. And most of them has realized that the move to S/4HANA is just a start and it is about being agile and a cultural shift in terms of how the businesses are open to changes and releases when it comes to maintaining the landscape. And we've got a huge rise in database analysis and ERP dataset accesses that allow these process mining models like Signavia in the form of SAP Business Process Intelligence to provide insights, real-time insights that can allow a CIO to take an instant decision and look into a particular process and how much of optimization potential that process holds and how it will impact their business in terms of process efficiency. But all of these, in terms of a cultural shift, in terms of having access to these insights and analytics, just poses one thing. It is about changing or fixing whatever needs to be fixed. But change has always been a love-hate relationship when it comes to the SAP landscape. The only main reason is because changes are pattern breakers. They break user behavior and they break the way the business has been performing all the while. And you cannot risk bringing or pushing multiple changes into your landscape. This is exactly how the platform works. This is more turnkey, like I mentioned. It is non-invasive. And by doing so, we hope that it can fit into your release schedule, planning, development, and testing. And here's where the platform plugs into the system, and it will help you look into and foresee what will happen if you make a change and what will happen if you release a transport request to your production system. And this would mean a complete transparency and control of your entire release management. You've got the processes which you will already foresee before you even release it and understand what really is going on if I release this particular transport. And you can all manage this in one single unified platform. Now, I will switch to the platform so that I can show how the platform works. Now, I am part of KTern, and I am in one of my workspaces where I could get started by connecting my landscape. Now, if I go into my in the landscape management, and I could get connected with any of my SAP systems or the target systems which I want to connect. And with this, let me get into digital mines, where I will launch a mine and I'll get started. Now, launching a mine is very simple and very user intuitive. So all I have to do is click on Add Change Impact Mine, and I can give it a name. Let me call it Roadshow Demo, because I am part of a roadshow right now. So it can also be of S4 release or a ECC release, because the demo landscape, which is to be shown here, is an S4 system. So let that remain the same. And when it comes to release change analysis, like I mentioned, the platform connects to a development system and a quality system. The reason it connects to a quality system is very simple. It's only because we would like to have a closer copy of the production so that we'll be able to mimic the exact insights and the exact materiality or the usage of your business operations that is happening day in and day out in your production system. And I can also connect to my quality, and these will be my client. And by default, the platform comes with 6 major bots. You've got the change impact analysis bot that takes care of the overall change impact analysis. You've got a process impact bot that will take care of your process impacts. Then you've got your test impact bot, which will take care of your test case impact. Then you've got the technical impact bot, which will be more on the technical objects and the custom code objects. And finally, you've got an execution bot and a gap bot. These are the automation bots that will help you mitigate and minimize your testing costs and time. Now, I also have different ways where I can run this change impact mine. I can either have an autonomous way of listening to my transport pipeline and spinning off a digital mine like this right away as soon as the transport is released, or I can look into a particular release window or a date time range where I can plan my impact analysis, or I can also prompt the platform to allow me to specify the exact transport request which I want to analyze. And all I have to I've chosen a date time range And I would also be like to be prompted when it comes to the transport requests which I want to analyze, and I would like to check this option. Now with this thing, I can launch my bot right now. So when I launch my bot, it will be created, and I've got the bot created. It typically takes some time for the bot to get started and to get into the system and start performing the analysis. Now I get to the next stage of what this mine will do. While it is in progress, I've got a mine which I ran already, and I have made sure that I mimic the process. Now this mine tells me that there is an action required from. I created a mine, and I said prompt me with the number of transport requests or the transport requests which I want to analyze. And now this mine connects to my target SAP system, and I'll be prompted with the list of mines for the date range I selected. And I have the luxury of choosing the transport request which I would like to analyze. It can be a customizing request or a workbench request, as you could see. And these are the transport requests available in the SAP system. Now, I could run my bot, which will eventually start looking into these transport requests only, and it will start looking out for the impact these transport requests will have when I move this to the production system. Now, I've got one of those executions done live, and it is all successful. Let me launch this mind result. It will take me to a dashboard where I have a complete visibility on what the transport requests are and what is the impact these transport requests have in my production system. Now, the first things first, this mine has analyzed 21 transport requests, and there are almost 757 objects. This is how an average release happens in every SAP environment. And I've got the list of transports that were analyzed, and each of these could have like n number of objects within them. Now, with these transport requests as the ones that needs focus, the platform will now start to focus on the impact these transport requests might have when they move to the production. Now, I've got a change impact analysis dashboard that tells me you've got 289 business process steps, out of which 54 business process steps are affected. Now, I don't have to be worried about what are the business processes that are getting impacted. I have a clear visibility that there are 54 business process steps that are getting impacted, and they are by different line of business. And each of these business also tells me that these are the n number of impacts that these transport requests can have in my production system. So I've got a high impact, low impact, and a critical impact. I will explain deeper about what high, low, medium, and critical actually means. And on the other hand, I've got the impacted test cases. Now, as a platform, the platform has connected to the test repository, which is UiPath, and it has looked into my UiPath test portfolio where I've got the list of test cases, and it has understood the fits as well as gaps. Now, a fit actually means those are the test cases which I would like to be which has to be tested before making this release. And a gap actually means there are a few business processes that are getting affected, but the platform could not find relevant test cases around the business processes. So you could enrich your test repository by having these gaps as requirements so that your testing team or your COE team takes care of automating those gaps and creating your test case repositories, which you will use in a subsequent release when the mine happens again. Now, if I scroll down more, I get to see the top business processes that are getting affected, and I also get to have the visibility on the top business stakeholders who will get affected because of this particular transport change. And I've got insightful widgets and KPIs that will drill me further, and it will provide me much more information if I am interested to look into it. But my focus here will be more on the automation front. So let me get into the technical impact first, where I get to see what are the standard objects and the customizing objects that are getting affected. And I have the luxury of filtering the only ones which I want to focus on. And that will tell me What are the standard objects that are getting affected? Of course, standard, and these are transactions. And the materiality score actually means how effective are these standard objects in use when it comes to your actual business usage. And it tells me what kind of UI this standard objects points to. And I have the traceability where it tells me what exact change in the transport request analyzed is causing this impact. And I get to see the criticality of the impact along with the stakeholders who could be part of this technical object impact. Now, if we move on to the process, it's much more insightful. Let me click on standard, and I get to see all of the business processes in here. And I can get into a particular line of business, which will get me the standard business process steps that are getting affected. And I've got a bunch of SD specific transports that are getting affected. We also noted FI being heavily impacted, and I can click on FI and I get to see what those impacts are. And like always, I get to see if it is a transaction, if it is a standard object, and if the impact is high, medium, or low. The traceability comes here again. And I also have the list of transport requests and the stakeholders who need to be involved as part of end user testing or end user acceptance when it comes to making this release. Now, here's the interesting part. This is the testing part. And here's where the fits and the gaps happen. Like I mentioned, I've got 3 different fits. So these are the test cases out of my entire test repository, which I should focus in terms of testing. And I don't have to manually do that too. So I can select the fits or the test cases which I want to test. I can click on create new test set, and I can say Roadshow demo testing, and I can execute the bot. This bot will automatically create the test sets which will require testing. And if I get into this test set, these are the exact number of test cases which requires testing because of a transport which just got analyzed. Now, I can just press all of them and I can click on execute because these are automated test cases. Now, a gap, on the contrary, actually points to a gap in your test case portfolio where you don't have relevant test cases available for the processes that got impacted. Nevertheless, you have an option of pushing this through your test case repository as a requirement so that your testing team can focus on creating test cases and not having them automated. That thereby you can increase the coverage of your automated test cases. I can select the ones which I want to focus, and I can click on test, create test requirement, and I will call it Roadshow demo requirement creation, and I can execute the part. This will create a set of requirements in my requirement space in the UI path test manager. This is the requirement which I just created a few seconds ago. I can go in here and I can get to see what are the test requirements which got created right now for this particular example. And that's how seamless it is, where you take a standard SAP landscape, you connect KTern and UiPath to that particular landscape, and you have complete visibility on what will happen if a selected bunch of transport requests, big or small, 1 or 2, 100 or 200, if analyzed, the platform will take care of providing you the insights on how it can potentially disrupt your business and how you can exactly zero in on the scope when it comes to testing. While this is more on the automation front, the change management is a universal topic. And with the insights which the platform provides, you'll be able to execute the entire change management within the platform. And that's where we've got the governance sections which comes into picture. As an enterprise which actively manages SAP systems, I can maintain my project plan or my release plans and have my release schedules as per my release planning or release strategy. and I can have them executed quarter on quarter, because that's exactly how most enterprises work. And every time the build gets done, I can run my change impact mine and subsequently have clear idea about the end user testing and the test automation. That will help me stay ahead, stay agile, and focus on what has to be tested and reduce the cost to the maximum extent. Now, while the planning is quite obvious, the major change would be on the sign-offs. Now, based on the stakeholders, the processes that got impacted, the platform will suggest you a sign-off hierarchy along with the stakeholders so that you can take it up for your execution, and you will have a bottom to top approach in terms of approving your sign-offs and having a unified collaboration in terms of making a release. Now, I've got my Explorer view where I will be able to maintain different sign-offs phase by phase, or pre-production checklist or post-production checklist. I can have n number of them, and it's not just the release team which I will involve. I will also involve the end users who were directly getting impacted from the results of my change impact mine. If I launch this, I can have a bottom to top hierarchy, starting from the granular activities of end user testing or my knowledge transfer. And I can also plan it line of business wise. So I have clarity in terms of what is that specific line of business that has to be given utmost focus to make this release successful. And I can do it based on activity wise, deliverables wise, or checklist wise. In this particular pre-production sign-off checklist, I need to clear my functional specifications. I need to clear my technical spec, string testing, end user testing, and knowledge transfer. When it comes to knowledge transfer, it can happen with business to business or line of business by line of business. I've got line of businesses maintained here, and I can also have n number of stakeholders getting involved. So you kind of virtually bring your entire business unit and your IT unit so that they work together in terms of approving and saying yes to a specific release, and thus avoiding confusions amongst everything that is going on during the release windows or during the release cycle. Now, with that note, let me get back to the presentation and talk about what we intend to do by doing this. The main idea here is we completely digitize this entire releases, and you have clear scope and clarity on what are the releases, what is my release schedule, and who has to be involved, what will get impacted, and what has to be tested. And since because you're bringing the business right into your platform, you can make sure you have absolute user satisfaction and business satisfaction, and your NPS can hit sky high because it is them who will be approving and who will be using the entire releases you make to the production system. And I can go on demand and I can look into a specific release, a future release, or a past release, and have clarity on what's going on in my release window or my release transport pipeline. And like I mentioned, the sign-off, that's quite crucial because I'm having a bottom to top go no go decisions. So if in case there's a problem, if in case there's a red flag in terms of a release window or a release schedule, I will have absolute clarity and notification in terms of what exactly is failing and where and who's the person responsible so that I can mitigate them. And you are also bringing the team inside so you can accelerate your change management to the maximum because it is a collaboration workspace and it connects to your SAP system, which means it is cognitive enough to provide you with information about who the end users are who need change management. And most of the organizations follow strict governance and compliance when it comes to testing. The scope, the test coverage, the test results, the bug results, the go no go decision recording those communications. Now you have it all in one single place, so your release audit and governance is much simpler. And most of all, we are talking about reduced ice. IT costs. Instead of you spending time testing 1,000 test cases, you could shrink it down to those exact test cases that needs testing. And we have seen a typical reduction of 2/3 of the time when it comes to these. That way, the enterprises have started to become more and more agile. And we are talking about on time and on cost release delivery, because we're not talking about added scope, we're not talking about test all mentality, we're not talking about confusions or uncertainties in terms of what has to be tested, and we're not talking about getting confused over who the end users should be, who should be authorizing that these releases are good to go to the production system. So that way, the platform KTern inspires and tries to democratize how change management happens in a typical SAP landscape. With that note, I will say goodbye, platform. And I'd like to thank everybody who joined us as part of this digital roadshow. If I have to tell the backstory of it, it's quite simple. We wanted to democratize SAP digital transformations, and the best way to do it is to reach out to people, the SAP community, which is by far the biggest ERP community in the world. And it isn't just about having flashy events or in-person events. It is about democratizing as easy as possible, having the SAP knowledge delivered to you on all of the social media platforms which we are using, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and that is exactly how the entire digital show happened. And we are very thankful and we are very elated to have you all as part of this digital roadshow, having a journey with us and trying to spread knowledge and trying to spread value most of all. Now, let's catch up in another digital roadshow that's coming at you in March, and we'll be more than excited to have your feedback in terms of how you felt throughout the entire digital roadshow and how much of value or learnings you had in the process. With that note, I'll bid goodbye until next time. Bye-bye.
That was a great session. Thank you, Vignesh, for your insights. And thank you, Philip, for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing your thoughts with us. As you are all aware, this roadshow have tried to promote the awareness on intelligent enterprise with the sustainability and with the motto of Go Digital, Go Green. I would like to thank all of you again for being part of this roadshow and making this roadshow a huge success. Our journey of sharing the SAP knowledge globally will continue to happen. And even if Elon Musk and Christian Klein travel to Mars, we will make sure that our digital space show is there for the upliftment of mankind. Let's keep going, and all those who have missed out on some events, we will make sure that you get the resources as soon as possible. Thank you all again and have a good day ahead. Thank you.